Welcome to Cats and Rats Podcast, covering your Florida Panthers.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the newest episode of the Cats and Rats Podcast, episode number 40. I'm your host, Kirby Lupo, your winning host, joined alongside, as always, my co-host, Cody Stevens. We have a special guest here today from the Hockey News and the Florida Panthers, beat reporter David Dwork. How's it going, David? Nice to have you back.
It's going well. I appreciate the invite. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. So, Cody, I think we got to talk with David first. So we had people in our Cats and Rats community attending the games in Montreal. David, you went to Boston. So just break down the atmosphere and the sights and sounds and everything about that. You know, some fans right now that are new hockey fans, once in a lifetime experience here.
No, it was really cool. And I think that's kind of what's been the ongoing impression for me, at least, is like the outreach. How many people are talking to me about hockey that don't usually, the amount of people that it seems to have drawn into the game. I mean, we've seen like the viewership numbers. That was one of the most watched games in North America in the last decade, which is really cool. Considering where it started, right? A few weeks ago, we didn't know what this tournament was going to be. We didn't know if it was going to be a glorified all-star game or what. And the players all showed up and they made it this amazing experience for everybody involved. I wish I'd been there in Montreal, because it sounds like the first US-Canada game on that Saturday night was like the game of the tournament in terms of, I mean, the game itself was amazing, but in terms of the atmosphere, and, you know, you can't really expect much less from a pro-Canada crowd at the Bell Center. I mean, that's one of the most intimidating buildings in all of sports. So it was really cool just to see how it all played out, and then to see it culminate in that championship on Thursday in Boston, with the crowd being as loud as they did get at times, with like the Johnny Hockey chants were really cool. And then to see, you know, not arguably the best player in our game right now, Connor McDavid, score the deciding goal in the tournament, the golden goal. I don't think it could have been written any better, unless you wanted the U.S. to win. But I mean, you know, otherwise, I just thought it was really awesome, and I was felt privileged to be there.
Two things there, Cody, before I go to you, that David said there. Something I've always talked about as Panther fan. Wait until we play Montreal in a playoff series. I'm like, you guys, that's why I hate the Habs fans. I respect them, but I hate them. And then the second thing there, Cody, too, was just the overall, like atmosphere that we kind of got from like the Montreal feel from our co-hosts and different things like that. So again, Cody, what do you have on the tournament there for David?
I mean, it must have been like insane to like be watching best on best. I mean, live too, because once again, like you're at home on TV, you're not seeing the entire length of the ice. You're not seeing what the players do away from the puck. Like outside of like any Panthers players, because I know we're like Royal Panther fans, were there any players that like really caught your eye that you were like really shocked? Like, I don't want to say shocked, but more surprised that they were like better in person than what you've seen like on TV?
I think the guy that kind of impressed all of us was Jacob Slavin, the defenseman for the Americans. Aside from just what he did in that game against the U.S. in the final, he just had a spectacular tournament. And also Zach Werenski, I mean, you know, maybe a little bit sheltered in Columbus, having an amazing year and getting Norris Trophy consideration. But just to see how smooth of a skater he is and how easy he can move the puck from one end of the ice to the other against some of the best players in the world, as you said, Cody. So that was really cool to see. I enjoyed the goaltending. I thought Sam Ersson had a great game at the end there for the Swedes. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, but like Sam Bennett, he got booed less than Brad Marchand in that final game, which I thought was pretty funny, just because Sam Bennett is Sam Bennett, right?
Especially in that building.
He jumps into Hagel's arms, David, and then Marner's the primary assist. What bizarre world are we in here?
Oh my God. But that's what makes this so cool, right? Like that's why like we crave it, and that's why I think, you know, as fans you want it, but what the players delivered, like they sense it too, they want it too. And I hope that this starts like some kind of a rotation to where you get like the All-Star game one year, you get Four Nations one year, you get World Cup one year, and you get Olympics one year, and you just do something like that. Or, you know, maybe if you want to do the All-Star game every other year or something. But I just think this is too cool and too valuable to let pass over to be that infrequent, even if, and I don't think anybody's crying that much about potential injuries that came from it. But overall, I just think it was just such an amazing experience that it's hard not to want to do it more and just see if you can keep it rolling.
And David mentioned earlier, Cody, I want to go back to it here for a second. Cody and I, in our post-game show and our podcast here, we were getting a lot of fans, and some of them are newer hockey fans, but they're especially new to Best on Best, David. And they're like, is this going to be a glorified all-star game? I'm like, it's not. I'm in Canada. Cody, I call sometimes honorary Canadian. He's been up to Canada a lot with family and different things like that. We're like, this is not going to be like that. And like how the media was at least covered north of the border was like, these guys are going in. If you heard what Connor McDavid said going into this tournament, ends up scoring the winning goal. He's like, this is the first time I'm best on best. I'm hungry. Sidney Crosby has nothing to play for in Pittsburgh. He's playing for this tournament. He's playing for the Olympics next year in Italy. There's just so much there. You heard from the Tkachuk brothers. So again, Cody, like we kind of try to tell our audience, and they're like, I don't know, Kirby. I don't know, Cody. Right?
I think of best on best hockey kind of like a drug. Like it's one of the best things ever. And like it sucks it nearly took 10 years for us to kind of get it back. Though that World Cup of Hockey, I still think the Team North America team is probably my favorite team to ever watch.
That North America-Sweden game, Cody. Whew.
Those guys. Like you had every ounce of young star. I just hope in the next tournament you add, like maybe Russia could probably be added next time. And then to add the sixth team, you bring in like a Team Europe type deal, where you're not leaving out like the stars, like the Dreisaitls, the Stutzlas, the Siders, Timo Meyer in that same ordeal. Like kind of like broadcast the stars from like other countries a bit more. But I mean,
you just sent me on like a little mental tangent, by the way, bringing up that North America Sweden game, because I'm just thinking about Henrik Lundqvist and what he did, and it's just kind of like I've lost all attention span for a moment.
Henrik, and that's
that
like
was one of my guys too, David.
That's the best thing I think for this best on best tournaments, because we haven't had best on best in so long. We don't realize that a lot of these countries are in between eras with best on best now, because Sweden doesn't have the Lundqvist anymore, like the spearheaded guy. They have like Hedman and stuff, but Lundqvist was like always the heart and soul of those Sweden teams, I felt. And then Canada, this is their first best on best tournament with like, Patrice Bergeron, Ryan Getzlaf, those guys.
A new blue line.
And the Americans, like a best on best tournament in America without Patrick Kane on the ice is insane to me.
Like, it was cool to see like Big Walt walking around the Canadian. And I mean, Ryan Getzlaf, who wasn't on the ice, but he was very present with the Team Canada. Just seeing them walk around and knowing that like the older school, I mean, like even like US, like John Van Beesbrook, like he's involved with Team USA. He was walking around the TD Garden. So I just think it's nice that there was like these multi-generational guys that played in the different eras that are able to kind of push in. And I mean, well, who do we see? Like, you saw Mario Lemieux, getting Team Canada pumped up before the game up there. You saw Mike Ruzioni doing it for Team USA down in Boston. So it's just awesome how they can pull from so many different eras and it all kind of comes together and everybody cares still.
David, what was your feedback? What was your response to your colleagues? You work with some younger colleagues and things like that. We had Armando on our last podcast, but even guys that are younger than Armando and people that might be like, a little bit newer to the game of hockey that are reaching out to you, like you said, that normally wouldn't be reaching out to you because they're excited about this tournament. What were they saying before this tournament? Like this whole glorified all-star thing, like where did this traction start? And like, what was your response to all that? Because you've been a hockey lifer.
I think my response to it was just hope. Like I just generally these days, everybody's going to have a bit of a pessimistic outlook, no matter, what outlet or background or whatever you might come from. Just the world right now feels a little bit like everybody's butting heads. So it doesn't surprise me that there was, a little bit of that kind of drapage or whatever you want to say, put over something that we didn't know what it would be. I had faith, maybe, I just know hockey players. And I know that in this kind of a situation, odds are that you're going to get what we saw more so than you would have all these guys come together just to, fart around and do an all-star game and try to show off their moves and dangles. And no, like these guys were playing for their country. It just something happens with hockey players when you put on your country sweater. So I think what was really cool to me is like people who don't talk about hockey in my life were asking me about the Tkachuk brothers. Like that is like, they're known right now across the US, the people who weren't NHL fans before because of what just happened, because it's getting on to late night talk shows and it's getting into all these areas that hockey doesn't usually get discussed. So people are raising their eyebrows and then you hear, oh wait, 3 fights in 9 seconds. Like the amount of remote controls that were clicking over from the NBA dunk contest to the USA Canada game that night, it was probably, you could probably hear it across from coast to coast. It was really, it's just a profound moment, I think, in sports. I hope that hockey is able to build on it because they've been given this gift right now and they're the hot topic. So hopefully they can build on it and it, continues to grow. But I mean, they killed it with this one.
Yeah. Cody, I want to jump in there because we talked about this on our After Dark show last night. So it fits in perfectly here. I don't know, David, I'm assuming you might have, but did you hear the PK Subban comments on ESPN and talking about hockey versus basketball and like, are you hurt? Are you injured? Players sitting out for load management. You're making enough money in the sport of basketball. How much more money do you need? Like those different type of comments that are now been created through this tournament, through Four Nations. And hopefully this momentum can take forward in the sport hockey. Cody, we know it's not the NFL. We know we're not going to draw those numbers. But
this is the type of viewership that helps the cap go up for more and more years. Because this is how hockey players get paid more, because the exposure's a lot more. And I mean, like, it was the most viewed hockey game this century. I think it was like 8 million people watching that game.
In the
Yeah, it's crazy. Almost, I think it was like 9.3 million in US or North America combined or something like that. It was crazy.
It was insane.
It was the kind of numbers you don't usually hear for hockey.
Yeah, and what's funny is like the Panthers, like Matthew Tkachuk's already kind of got that exposure because Game 7 of the Cup final last year was one of the more most watched games this century as well for hockey, and it's good to see like the Panther players get that kind of exposure because I remember a time we could barely get a game on Versus, like it's like amazing and shifting.
Yeah, but hold on, quick. Before we get to the Panthers and how they did Four Nations, what are your feelings on it, David? Do you love like PK Subban, those types coming out and speaking on the game and kind of clapping back at the other North American traditional sports, saying, "Hey, what's going on? What's going on under your hood here?"
No, you know what? Again, whether or not you agree with it, there's a profound voice that's out there pushing back, for hockey. There's a big voice that's getting the attention of the NBA on TNT guys, which their reach in sports, not just in basketball, is huge. So if you're going to tap into that, and no matter what you're saying, I mean, let's be real, it's sports talk, okay? Hot takes, it's no big deal. We're gonna say a lot of things, and in a week from now, it's gonna be forgotten anyway. So if you can get out there and get that kind of attention, and you can keep the conversation going, like, I'm all for that. Like, that's kind of the point of this, is like, you've got to strike while the iron is hot. So for PK Subban to go out and do that, I'm cool with that. If anybody, Mark Messier or whoever else wants to give out there and start pushing back and saying, oh yeah, we got hockey players who are killing themselves in an exhibition game that means nothing. And then you've got NBA guys who are taking, a week off here and there because they've got a hangnail or whatever it is. And no disrespect, that's the perception, that it's like one is so much different on the other side than the other is, just because hockey players will do whatever it takes. I don't mind that conversation is being had.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cody, with the
shifting to the Panthers now and their Four Nations performances. I think in this tournament, the best Panther, like who had the best time, I think, or you could go with two guys. Sam Bennett made an impact in both games he played in, scoring that like beautiful goal, like, short side, top roof shelf. Like I need to see that in some games. I'm like, I saw that. I'm like,
he had like 5-6 hits at one point.
Yeah, he was a menace out there. Bennett the Menace, living up to the name. And I think this tournament, Anton Lundell once again.
We've been a big proponent of him, Cody.
The rise of Anton Lundell this season has been nothing short of like amazing to watch.
I felt he was the best player on the ice, Anton Lundell, on that Saturday when all Four Nations were playing. I thought Anton Lundell was the best player on the ice that Saturday. And he
had a great tournament. I mean, look, Anton Lundell there are times where, like, when I'm watching the Panthers from the press box, I'll see somebody do something on the ice, and the way that their body moves, I'm thinking, oh, that's Barkov. But no, it's Lundell. No. And look, I know Barkov's bigger and all that. I'm just the way that he gets in the way, the way that he contorts his body, like it's happened on many of occasions over the last few years where he emulates the guy. So to see him coming into his own like this, and to be able to do it with his buddies on the ice, I just love the kinship between Anton Lundell and Eetu Luostarinen. Like they've got such a funny friendship, and it's been going on for so long now. So to see them having that kind of fun and success on that level was really cool. But like Nico Mikkola, nobody's talking about the impact he had for the Finns. No, he was incredibly impactful and effective without necessarily cracking the score sheet, which he doesn't do. I mean, granted, he's got now a career high in points for Florida, and we've still got a third of the season to go. But I mean, this is somebody that's just another guy. Bill Zito said this is going to work. It worked in Florida. Team Finland's obviously picked up on that, and they had a lot of defensive issues on their back line in terms of injury. But Mikkola didn't disappoint at all. He gobbled up the minutes, and he played in a ton of situations for them. You mentioned.
I did the
go ahead.
Players, David, and it's hard not to give a little allowance to Mikkola when Finland is missing their first pairing, and we're telling our fans he's going to be playing 23, 25 minutes a night.
Yeah,
and he held his own, Cody.
I was terrible. Like going into the tournament, I was afraid of him being injured because we know, like on the Panthers on the back end, we're really thin, and when we were without Mikkola for a little bit there, it did look great at times. And I think Mikkola is kind of like the glue right now that kind of helps that Panthers back end. I was worried about him. And I thought he's like, has a Panther stock grown more in the last like year or two than Niko Mikkola? Because before he got to Florida, he was more of like a 7D for the Rangers, 6D kind of.
He played with Fox a bit.
But in St. Louis, you didn't hear about him. In New York, he was like, you kind of looked at him at 6D. In Florida now, he's a top, like he's a bona fide top 4 defenseman now.
Yeah, he's gotten the Gus Forsling treatment. He went from being somebody that you hadn't really heard of to being like, oh, wow, wait, that guy? Yeah, I know who that guy is. I mean, Mikkola, I think his coming out party, I think kind of happened during the Stanley Cup final just because he had some pretty big impact on that. He scored a goal during the series. So people now knew what his name was. But man, it's just so steady. Like that's what really impresses me is the consistency, the way that he can go out game after game after game and do the same things. And you go half the game, you don't even notice him because he's not making mistakes and he's doing them very smooth. And that's the kind of thing that you can really appreciate on a team, especially like the Panthers, right?
He's such a smooth, fast skater, and I think that's like the most underrated ability about him is.
And Cody, I think you've settled into him a bit last year because you and Nick were like, Kirby's jumping up in the rush too much and taking chances.
It was just him and
Monter, right? So this year he's maybe more like into the system.
And now he has to do it. Last year I'm like he has Montour on his pair, and I'm like, and I was like jumping up the rush was kind of like a Montour thing, you know. And it was like I remember specifically a rush. It was a 3-on-2, and both our defensemen were on the 3. And I was just like kind of lost with that.
Cody being a fellow defenseman.
I'm staying home. I can't like jump up in the rush. Like I was just Mark Stahl. I'll do it like once every like 20 games.
I wasn't planning to ask you this, David, but we have a little quick time to answer for a minute or two here. How do you think this rest was for Bob? I know he wants to be working all the time. What did you see behind the scenes? He probably did take a lot of days off like they're joking about on the telecast last night.
I would imagine that because I wasn't really here that much, and they didn't have a formal practice until the day of the final in Boston anyway, and there was only like 12 guys on the ice or whatever for that one. But I would imagine that Bob was putting in as much work as he wanted to. Like this is a guy who wants to be on the ice pretty much every day, but he's just had a great regimen. So I didn't think it was that concerning in terms of what his workload would be. Like he seemed fine last night against Seattle. Honestly, I thought his rebound control was a little bit more out of whack than usual, but that could just be, it takes a little time for him to get back into the grind. As you mentioned, Bob's a guy, he wants to work. He wants to play, every game basically. Yeah. He would have been great in the 90s. He would have been great under Mike Keenan. But no, I think as long as he's able to get his run going to the playoffs, the Panthers want their goalies to be riding. Paul Maurice, I think him and Robbie Tallis, they know exactly how they want to get Bob going towards the playoffs, as they've done it now the last couple of years, and Bob has been outstanding during the playoffs. So I think the break aside, it's so far off in the postseason, and that's the concern anyway. So I don't think I'd be worried about Bob at all.
Yeah, especially, but now it's like a little different because you have the Spencer Knight now who had a little of a rough patch to start, but it's been phenomenal ever since the turn of the new year. But now the biggest concern for Florida is the Matthew Tkachuk injury. We had some guy on Montreal television saying he was done for the rest of the regular season. All these reports saying he'll be out for a length of time. And to be honest, it's going to be interesting to see what Florida does, especially 2 weeks before the trade deadline, because everyone knows the whole LTIR thing now. And it's becoming more and more of a question mark, and more of if they do put him in LTIR, it opens up the floodgates for Zito to kind of not because of what the lack of assets Florida has, and with the $9.5 million on LTIR, they're not going to have to ask teams to retain on certain guys now. So the price for them would probably go down because there's no retainment involved.
Well, for the expiring contract guys, for sure.
Yeah, expiring contract, yeah, especially. But David, how based off what we've done in the past, is there a way you think Matthew Tkachuk's probably gonna end up on LTIR, or do you think they're just gonna, if it's a 2-3 week thing, they're or maybe 4-6 week thing where he's gonna be back kind of right before towards the end of the regular season, maybe early April, late March? Do you feel like that is a possibility in your head?
Yeah, I think anything is a possibility right now just because we don't know the severity of the injury. I think that if it's the kind of thing, because I'm trying to do the math in my head, but I'm just going to real quick open up the schedule to figure out how many weeks we have left. So we have, basically 6 weeks left. give or take, if I'm doing it right. So even if it's a month-long prognosis, if the injury, there's reports, and I don't want to go out and say what it is or anything. There's reports that it's like a groin injury. Those kind of injuries take longer to heal, whether it's a pull, a tear, or whatever. A groin injury, they're sensitive. I wouldn't want to rush Tkachuk whatsoever if he has anything like that. And the Panthers traditionally have shown a tendency to take their time with guys, whether it's been Matthew Tkachuk or Sasha Barkov or Aaron Ekblad or any of the guys that have been out of the lineup, Sam Bennett. They don't want to rush it. They don't want them to come back just to go back out again. So if Matthew Tkachuk, I would think that they're going to err on the side of caution regardless. I think Florida's confident that they can continue to win games and get themselves to where they need to be in terms of playoff positioning, even if he has to miss some time. To your other point of the trade deadline and Bill Zito, I mean, look, we've going on 5 years of Bill Zito now, and I put my faith in him the way I do in Pat Riley, just in terms of you do you, and I got your back. Bill Zito has done no wrong by the Panthers basically his entire time here. So if him and his staff decide they want to go out and they want to try to swing for the fences again, the year they brought in Giroux and Sherratt and they go that route, hey, we know what this team is capable of, Stanley Cup caliber. So if you want to add a piece or two to that, I get it. If not, they're also very happy with the team that they have. And I would imagine that they're at least going to pick up some depth type pieces, whether it's a bottom six type guy. Obviously they've been targeting a right shooting defenseman for a while. So either way, there'll be options for Bill Zito. What road he goes down, Cody, I couldn't tell you, but I will say this. As I poked around over the last couple of weeks, I did hear one big name that kind of made me raise an eyebrow. I'm only throwing that out there to say you never know with Bill Zito.
Yeah, he's an enigma at this point. Like,
the more options you give him, the more crazy, who knows what could happen. Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's everything. We have no idea.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, what I'll take from that is just if they end up going the route with Chucky where Zito has those kind of an option,
yeah,
it excites me to see how it could all play out. And we got 2 weeks to the deadline. So
it's so Zito's very unpredictable to me, because the minute the Tkachuk deal went down, I think that I didn't think we were going to get him. I thought we were.
I did. I thought I did. I've seen Louis
praying.
fans deleting their tweets after
But at the time, trading Huberdeau and Weegar was,
or at least in that first, second, third. I thought we might finish second, but I thought we were very serious bidders. I didn't know the names. That was the surprise thing, Cody. And Cody and I have been a big proponent of right-handed D, adding that. We've talked about it all year on our post game. We get so many questions from fans. Some things that we hear, some names that we reported on: Yoki Haru, Yanni Gord, Cody, Byram's potential out there, Taylor Hall until he wasn't available. I think these are names that
Zito's always liked Taylor Hall for some reason.
Yeah, I don't get that fascination personally. Again, just saying what we've heard and what
But hey, he sees something we don't. He's the GM. We're always gonna be wrong. I'm always gonna listen to Bill Zito.
Yeah,
Bill
exactly.
Zito we trust.
And the thing is, David, looking ahead here because of this Matthew Tkachuk injury, how have you felt that the Panthers have played? Have they started to find their game? Early in the year, Cody we thought was really disjointed. I was really let down by the Adam Boqvist thing. We talk about Zito's misses, Cody. When they are misses, it's very the minimal contract. It's not the big misses, right? So
it's the
that's
750.
where you can write that off, right?
For every Adam Boqvist he hits, on an AJ Greer and a Jesper Boqvist.
Right. And I think, David, to me, my take is there's a little bit of a push and pull with Zito and Maurice there of what type of defenseman and what type of dog that Maurice wants. There could be a little bit more analytical based in guys like Adam Boqvist that, to me, just was never a Maurice guy. So how are they going to come together on that? But also, how has this team been playing? Because I think they've been rounding into form here before Four Nations break. And then I can see that moving forward here. You're starting to see the forechecking game, the back-checking game, the battle play. And it Paul Maurice always says, David, it's not an easy system to play.
No, I totally agree that I think that as we got into the Four Nations break, that they had been playing some of their best consistent hockey of the season heading into it. And I would imagine that would continue, even if Matthew Tkachuk has to miss some time. We've seen that this team, they can afford to be without one guy and still kind of keep the train moving in that direction. I think between the two things that killed them between December and January was their travel schedule and a illness bug that was kind of impacting the team that just would not go away. now their schedule is going to calm down a bit. They've got that one big road trip coming up in a couple weeks. That's going to, to Canada and to the Northeast and all that. Otherwise, pretty minimal, especially comparatively to the first half of the season. So if you can stay healthy illness wise, you're going to be home more. You're going to be able to get into those routines. You're going to be able to get that kind of treatment that you get at home that you don't get while traveling all the time. And just by virtue of being in your own bed, being around your family and the people that you like, it's just going to be all beneficial for the Panthers. So I would think that my expectation is that they're going to continue to play as they did heading into the break. They'll continue to be, kind of pushing with Toronto for that 1-2 spot in the Atlantic Division. But as we know, like the name of the game for these guys is just being a good spot when they get into the playoffs. It doesn't matter if you're, if you're home ice advantage or not. They've been an amazing road team the last few years. They've been great in the playoffs on the road. So I think the name of the name is just get healthy, get right. And when April gets here, you go. Because right now, I agree, Kirby, that they had been playing some great hockey of late, and they should continue.
Let's see.
Cody, just to jump in, it bugs me every year they get sick because I'm in Western Canada. I'm like, get your flu shots, get your vitamin supplements in. I go to the game, and I had a fan from Florida there that originally was from Florida, David, and moved to Calgary. And we were having a great talk about the history of the Panthers. And he looks at the ice and he's like, I don't think Barkov was out there for the skate. I'm like, I thought I saw him out there. Then everyone said, burning, my phone's just burning up. And they're like, Kirby Barkov's sick. I'm like, that figures it. It just always happens on that Western Canadian road trip. And that's the toughest schedule every year for the Panthers, Cody. But remember back to last year, Cody, after this point, they only had to leave the Eastern time zone, I think, once. And now I think that's the same case here, David, with the Nashville game. Everything else, Cody, moving forward, is Eastern time zone, a lot of divisional games, and a lot of home dates, right? So
Nashville, who else?
I'm looking at the schedule now. I'm pretty sure that's it.
It's only Nashville?
Last year.
Nashville, Montreal, New York, Columbus, Washington, Montreal. Yeah, it's all East Coast.
So last year, I think it was Dallas, David, and then everything was East. So
yeah, and then when their last road game in Detroit on April 6th, after that, they don't leave the state of Florida because they've only got a road game in Tampa for the last week and a half of the season. So they've got some advantageous schedule coming up. As long as they don't get hurt, I don't know. Why shouldn't we be optimistic?
Yeah,
it's all crazy here, David. Right? We have been a little. I mean, Cody and I, we do the post game, little nitpicking and stuff. But Cody, this is an open.
The only thing with me is like a Tkachuk injury. The only thing it really hurts is I think it's going to hurt our divisional chances, like the winning the division. That's the only thing that's going to hurt. We're going to be 1-2 the entire time. We're not going to. We're not going to fall to 3. I don't think.
The one thing that I felt like I'd miss the most if or whatever happens with Tkachuk, and this has got nothing to do with the standings. I just really wanted to see a line of him, Bennett, and Samoskevich get some run. Just because Mackey had been playing so well of late. He looked great last night too. So that could be kind of some secret sauce that they could sprinkle into things when the playoffs get here if they put that back together. But I guess just me throwing a little bit of love Mackey Samostevich's way because his rookie season, unlike Panthers rookie we've seen in a while, it's other than Anton Lundell, it's just been a pretty steady uprising, and to see him putting in the work and improving the way he has been really awesome.
He's been playing the Paul Maurice system, Cody, and we've been going back and forth with fans like, where does he fit come playoff time? Because we're like, please, Paul, he's doing everything you're asking as a coach, not just offensively but defensively. So we're hoping in the lineup.
That's the thing, and the thing was the one thing I was hoping going into this year, and I said at the beginning, was if he runs into a little bit of a struggle, don't scratch him. Just let him just be on the ice and let him struggle for a bit. Let him figure it out. And I think you kind of saw that in December a bit. But once again, the turn of the new year, he's been phenomenal. And he's been not afraid to go into the corners. He's been battling out for the net. He's one of the best back checkers on the team.
Like last night, Seattle, as of this recording.
Yeah, and he's been probably he's easily been the best rookie we've had since Lundell. And, we had a pretty good chunk where we haven't had a good, our first round picks haven't really panned out for us. And it's been in this for another episode, but his impact for the Panthers this year has been huge. And especially from not now, but for 3 years from now, 5 years from now. Because if he continues to develop like he is, the Panthers don't have to go out and get another winger in the future. He's right there. And
back to focusing on the D. You don't got to focus up front, right?
Yeah. The importance of homegrown talent cannot be stressed. When you're trying to build a long-lasting, successful team, you need homegrown talent because you need those cheap but talented players in your lineup to supplant all the guys you have to spend your money on.
Yep.
So for Lundell, for Samoskevich, those guys, I mean, look at even the deal that Forsling signed, for crying out loud. Like that, I mean, it's a big deal, but for a top pairing defenseman, that's a bargain. For Hagee as well. Like
Reinhardt too. Holy.
Reinhardt,
he would have gotten well over 10. He probably would have gotten 11 if he would have gone into the
like to go play with
my goodness.
Bedard's wing or whatever. Like, like
guys want to be here. They're signing for less to build something. It reminds me kind of what the Miami Heat did, back in the LeBron days when LeBron, Wade, and Bosch all took less money. Not Gary Payton, good God, Ray Allen, taking less money. All these guys coming to South Florida to compete, and they went to 4 straight finals. They won 2. So if that kind of thing is happening with the Panthers, where guys are actively saying, nope, I'll take $1 million less here or take whatever less here, pump that into the team elsewhere. We're going to get it back on the top end as they win. Like it's just a really cool situation.
I hope we get, and I know David follows some of our Charlotte Checkers coverage. We actually found another Charlotte Checker writer that's coming by our post-game show over on the Twitter X platform there. Everyone make sure to check it out. We do some Charlotte reports, and the questions always are, we need some of these defensemen to pop.
Mike Benning's like number 1 right now.
Yeah, he just scored a couple of goals in the last couple of days, I think.
Yeah, so and
I know they're really happy with how Toby Bjornfot has been playing down there. It's solid defensive play. And then just keep an eye. They brought in Puliarvi, who he's playing on that top line with Rasmus.
They did that.
Yeah. They're giving him a look. I don't know if it's going to turn into anything, but I mean the guy's obviously got some skill. So they get him into the systems, those Panther systems, and if he starts to perform, who knows?
Speaking of best on best, well, not best on best, but international competition with the World Juniors, the best line that I've seen, I've watched World Juniors since I was like 6 years old, David, going way back. One of the best lines I've ever seen is Jesse Puliarvi, Sebastian Aho, and Patrick Laine. Like that was unbelievable World Junior line, and they won the tournament that year. They don't win a lot.
And for those Panther fans who want to get into college hockey, check out University of Denver. Jack Devine, tearing it up again. 7th round gem by Bill Zito.
And I'm just going to give a shout out here, David, to we got a Western Canadian pipeline going on here with Grayson Sachin, Hunter St. Martin. A lot of these guys out of Alberta and Western Canada, and they're really popping right now as well in the organization. So a lot of good things up front. Just hope some of that stuff pans out.
I need some back end guys though.
Yeah.
Though Matt Sharavin, I hope he pans out.
Yeah.
But
anything else here, Cody, before we kind of wrap with David? I know we didn't get into a lot of the goalie stuff. We had that goalie interference thing play out. I don't know if David has anything to add.
David, is there any where can everyone find you on Twitter X maybe? Or any other shows that you may do? Because you are a busy man nowadays.
No, for sure. I'm on X, Twitter, whatever it is, at David's Work. Same on Instagram. I host the hockey show with Roy Bellamy every week on Fridays on the Dan Le Batard show on the DraftKings Network. It's a lot of fun hockey talk, some cool guests. We have fun over there. And you can find all my written work on thehockeynews.com/Florida, Florida Panthers page on the Hockey News.
Yeah, we gotta get Roy on here one time, Cody.
Yeah, maybe me and him can join in the misery that we are with Marlin fans.
Oh, he can definitely get in with you on that one.
It's just I'm getting depressed thinking about it. But
no, the good thing is the stadium will be empty, so we can park wherever, we can sit wherever. The things will be. It's the pro player treatment.
That's the one thing about the Winter Classic. That traffic is gonna be so bad.
Oh my God.
That's the first thing I said when I saw it. I'm like, oh Lord, the traffic. Because Kirby doesn't know this. Little Havana, where the Marlins Stadium's at, the roads are like this. Like it is tiny. It's already tough to get there kind of when the Marlins suck.
That's Cody's grounds there.
Park far away if you're going to the Winter Classic and walk in. You'll be a lot happier.
Miami
park under one of the bridges.
Oh boy. People are going to make money with parking over there. But David, once again, appreciate having you. Thank you for coming on, joining us. I'm glad you enjoyed the Four Nations like that. It must have been insane to see those players once again. But
it was cool. It was cool. Just like I said, I still feel like sometimes that I'm just a fan that figured out how to do this. So I'm just walking around. I'm like, oh, look, there's Sidney Crosby. There's Nathan McKinnon. There's Austin. Like, it's the coolest thing ever. So to see them all together playing that good, playing that hard, like that's all you want as a hockey fan. So just give me more of that, inject that in my veins, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, exactly.
David.
I just want to let everyone know, make sure to follow us on the Instagram side there, Cats and Rats. We're going live every Saturday on Cats and Rats After Dark, Panthers Talk and NHL Talk. And make sure to join us on the Twitter X platform after every Panthers postgame. Panthers Hockey is back. Yes, Cody?
But right before, as we say goodbye to David, thank you once again. Let's hear for a word from our sponsor at CanesWear.
Panthers fever is here. Are you geared up? CanesWear in Davie is the place for all your Florida Panthers needs. They have the latest gear for our favorite NHL team. Jerseys, polos, t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. CanesWear has you covered. Stop by their store in Davie or at PanthersWear.com. Again, that's PanthersWear, WEAR.com for all your Panthers gear.
Oh, but once again, a little just news just now. Huso Valimaki on waivers from Utah. Maybe Panthers take a look there. I have no idea. Just saw that. But once again, thank you, David. Once again, find us every Saturday night, 11 o'clock Eastern, for Cats and Rats After Dark. We're trying to make it a weekly thing. Last night we went over the goaltender interference on Seattle. Once again, please tune in every Saturday night. Check us on Twitter X Spaces. Follow Kirby on there. We go live every night, post-game Spaces. Win, loss, or draw, we're always there. But once again, thank you, everyone. Have a great day. And as always, let's go Cats.
What's up, Cats and Rats fans? If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button before you head out. If you're listening to us on Apple and Spotify, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. And just like always, let's go Cats.